The circus, as we know it now, was traditionally invented or created by a gentleman called Philip Pasley. He was known as a skilled equestrian and began performing tricks on his horse on the Thames River in England in about 1770. By the 19th century, the circus had become more than just entertainment. It was a stage for the unusual. From bearded ladies to conjoined twins, and from tattooed men to giants, here are the 15 circus freak show performers that actually existed. Number 15, Alexander Montague. He first took the stage in the 1850s, quiet, motionless, and almost weightless. Alexander became one of P.T. Barnum's renowned living skeletons, weighing just 54 pounds. His chest measured 4 inches thick. His wrists were thinner than most men's thumbs. There were no illusions or padded suits. It was just a body science couldn't explain. Audiences gawked, but Montague didn't juggle or breathe fire. He played violin, something gentle, something sincere. Though his body couldn't hold weight, it could still carry melody. Through the 1860s, he toured steadily, introduced not just as a curiosity, but as a mystery. What made Montague unforgettable wasn't shock. It was serenity. He didn't chase attention, he simply held it. When imitators emerged, thinner, louder, and more theatrical, they couldn't match his quiet presence. He didn't just display frailty, he gave it dignity. Montague showed audiences that being seen didn't always mean performing, and that even in a body that seemed to disappear, there could still be grace. Number 14, Serpentina, the Serpent Girl. Nobody knows where she was born or what her name is. Maybe Irene Farrell was her real name, maybe not. By the time she started performing in the early 1900s, that name didn't matter. People called her Serpentina, the girl with no bones. That wasn't true, but it didn't stop the posters. She bent her body in ways that made people uncomfortable, twisted her arms behind her, folded herself in half, let her spine become a question mark. They said she couldn't even walk and had to be carried to the stage. Early gigs were in places like Oakland's Globe Cafe. Later, she toured with the Marine Hippodrome as a Sea Tiny. Ripley's picked her up in the 1940s. The photos were fake. The legends were louder than the truth. But Serpentina still pulled it off. She didn't need to speak. She moved, and people stopped talking. Maybe she was a contortionist. Maybe she was something rarer. Well, either way, nobody walked out of the tent forgetting her. Number 13, Esther Blackman, the Alligator Girl. Esther Parnell didn't ask for ichthyosis. It gave her dry, scaly skin and took her hair. But it didn't take everything. Born in 1926, she joined the sideshow scene with her brother Bill in the 1940s. They were called twins, though they weren't. Just 2 kids with the same rare condition, trying to survive. Esther married a show musician named Thomas Blackman, built her own act, and had 7 children. Well, yup, 7. While touring, while being stared at, while being called the Alligator Girl. She started billing herself as the world's strangest mother because that's how you sell tickets in a world that needs a label for everything. She kept going, for decades. She even popped up in cult horror films like The Sentinel and The Mutations. But none of that was the real story. Esther wasn't just a performer. She was a wife, a mother, a woman who didn't flinch when the world looked too long. She gave it something real to look at. Number 12, the Matina brothers. Leo and his twin brothers, Bella and Mattias, aka Mike and Ike, were born in Hungary to John and Maria Matina. The twins stopped growing at just 32 inches tall. Their journey began when promoter Carl Schaffer discovered them as children and brought them on a global tour across Europe, Asia, and Australia. They reached the United States in 1917 and joined the Ringling Brothers, performing at Madison Square Garden and even selling war bonds dressed in soldier uniforms. Their fame crossed into film. They played Munchkins in The Wizard of Oz and were said to have inspired Disney's dwarfs in Snow White. Eventually, they settled in Suffolk, Virginia, becoming local legends. Mike died in a car accident during a tour in 1954. Ike followed in 1965 from a heart attack, and Leo passed in 1975. The Matina brothers remain deeply woven into the story of American sideshows and pop culture, where size never limited charisma or global recognition. Number 11. Willie Popeye Ingram. Born around 1930 in Decatur, William learned by age 4 that his eyes could protrude nearly an inch from their sockets. It wasn't painless or pleasant, but it was his. He joined Walter L. Wanis and Sons' traveling sideshow, journeying from dusty fairgrounds to crowded carnivals. Audiences reacted with awe, disgust, or disbelief, but Willie kept going. He earned a spot in Ripley's Believe It or Not, appeared in tabloid photo spreads, and even landed a role in the 1974 cult horror film The Freakmaker. People gawked, but behind the wide eyes and headlines was a man trying to make meaning out of what he couldn't hide. His condition turned heads, but it never told his story. Willie didn't perform for fame or fortune. He performed because it gave him a space, however narrow, where he wasn't ignored. He lived in a body few could understand and turned it into something unforgettable, something they couldn't look away from, and maybe, eventually, couldn't forget. Number 10. The Lucases, family of albinos. They came from France, pale skin, light features, white hair, and pink eyes. In short, they were a real family with albinism. But when P.T. Barnum saw them in Amsterdam in 1857, he couldn't resist fabricating the rest. He told audiences they were Negroes from Madagascar who slept with their eyes open. Then he renamed them the Wonderful Heliophobus family, a fake exotic label to sell more tickets. And people believed it. They always did. Barnum brought them to New York and displayed them at his American Museum. Audiences poured in. For over 40 years, the Lucases toured the country, performing with Barnum, W. Coles, and the Lemon Brothers. They became a traveling institution. When Antoinette died, her brother Rudolph kept performing solo, playing violin on vaudeville stages until his death in Kansas City in 1909. Their lives were shaped by myth, but they were real. Behind the exaggerated posters was a family of artists. Number 9. Joe the Leopard Boy. His real name was A.E. Bishel. Born in 1869, African-American, and living with leukoderma, which is a skin condition that marked his body with scattered patches of pigment, resembling a leopard's coat. He wasn't the only leopard boy, but he was among the first. P.T. Barnum gave him the name, the costume, the label. Joe performed in dime museums, smaller venues where curiosity reigned, and names didn't matter. The crowd never asked his real one. They only stared. Over time, the name became fixed. The boy disappeared. In 1909, he reportedly died after falling through an open trapdoor backstage. He was just 40. His skin made him visible, but it never made him seen. He lived between stages, between the audience's gaze and his own reflection. Like many before and after, he existed in that strange space where identity was erased, rewritten, and sold. And in the end, all that remained was the myth. His life was not his. Number 8. Carrie Akers. Carrie Akers stood just over 3 feet tall and weighed more than 300 pounds. Her body didn't obey the rules, and neither did she. Introduced to P.T. Barnum's show in the late 1880s as a fat dwarf lady, Carrie refused to play along with the expected script. She wasn't silent, sweet, or easy to control. She argued, she yelled, she held her ground. And because of that, they gave her a cruel name, the Warthog. Not because of her size, not even her looks, but because she refused submission. Most sideshow acts were boxed into silent amazement. Carrie broke that mold. She lasted only a few years under the spotlight, but her name didn't disappear. It remained. A flash of temper, a burst of rebellion, a woman too loud to erase. She never courted pity. She never sought forgiveness. What she asked, no, demanded, was to be heard. That alone was enough to make her unforgettable in an industry built on compliance. Number 7. General Tom Thumb. Charles Sherwood Stratton, better known as General Tom Thumb, was a little person whose growth halted mysteriously at 6 months old. Throughout childhood, he remained just 25 inches tall, eventually reaching 39 inches later in life. In 1842, at only 5 years old, he was recruited by P.T. Barnum. Stratton's performances blended comedy, song, dance, and celebrity impersonations. He became a global sensation, touring Europe and meeting Queen Victoria, President Lincoln, and the future King Edward VII. In 1863, he married fellow performer Lavinia Warren, known thereafter as Mrs. Tom Thumb. Their wedding made headlines around the world. Though his cause of dwarfism was never conclusively diagnosed, Tom Thumb lived a full life in the public eye. He died at age 45, leaving behind a fortune and a legacy that still echoes through circus history. He wasn't just a curiosity. He was a showman, businessman, and one of the earliest global celebrities of the American freak show era. All right, guys, now let's talk about Number 6. Captain Fred Walters. Fred Walters had followed orders all his life. He served in the British Army, kept his uniform tidy, and obeyed without question, even when prescribed a nerve treatment made with silver. Slowly, his skin began turning blue. Not metaphorically, literally. By 1891, the change was irreversible. With few options left, Walters joined the American freak show circuit. His blue-tinged skin became the ticket. People laughed, whispered, stared. So he leaned into the name, the Blue Man. What few knew was that the silver was still poisoning him, silently and relentlessly. For over 30 years, Walters toured America. His skin darkened, his body weakened, but the stage remained his only constant. In 1923, the silver reached his heart. He died quietly, far from home, remembered only by the name pinned to his skin. Some said he died for the crowd. Some called it art. But it wasn't that noble. Fred Walters died for the same reason many others did, because the world left him no better choice. Well, I feel sad for him. Number 5. Fanny Mills. Fanny Mills was born in England with Milroy's disease, which caused her feet to swell to huge proportions. As an infant, she emigrated with her father to Ohio, where he worked as a farmer. Once grown, Fanny realized her unique condition could be monetized. Her feet reportedly fit size 30 shoes, and by 1885, she toured under the name the Ohio Bigfoot Girl. Spectators paid to glimpse her 19-inch feet. Promoters leaned into melodrama, announcing that poor Fanny needed a husband. They claimed her father offered $5,000 and a farm to any man bold enough to marry her. It worked. Crowds surged to see the woman behind the story. Suitors lined up, but what no one knew was that Fanny was already married, and her father had died years earlier without offering any dowry. The entire scheme was promotional fiction. In the end, Fanny was never the desperate figure they imagined, just a lady capitalizing smartly on cruel curiosity. Number 4. Storstina, the Lapland giantess. Christina Katharina Larsdotter, nicknamed Storstina, was born on January 19, 1819, in Brennus, Sweden. By 18, she neared 2 meters in height and was soon promoted as the giant girl from Lapland. In 1837, she arrived in Stockholm to massive crowds and met King Carl XIV Johan. Despite public rumors, medical experts at the Karolinska Institute confirmed she was biologically female. Stina continued touring across Denmark, Germany, France, and England as the tallest woman in the world. Far from passive, she was multilingual, well-read, and managed her own affairs with business savvy. After returning home, she paid off her family's debts and secured her own land. Sadly, in 1854, a snowstorm caused an injury that led to gangrene. She died at 35. Soon after, her body was exhumed for further study by Karolinska researchers. Even in death, the fascination persisted. Stor Stina remains a striking figure, both exploited and admired, a towering presence in more ways than one. Number 3. Half man and half frog. In 1902, witnesses in South Carolina claimed a bizarre frogman emerged from a lake, croaked oddly, then vanished underwater. Such stories weren't new, but they fed into an enduring fascination that the freak show circuit eagerly embraced. In the late 1800s, Juno the Frogman, whose real name was Campbell, performed dressed as an amphibian, captivating crowds. By 1903, another act, Fairy the Human Frog, drew audiences with contortion stunts in a frog costume. Not all frogmen relied on suits. In 1866, a Frenchman with leathery skin, a frog-like face, wide-set eyes, and a clammy texture was exhibited to great fanfare. The most famous, however, was Otis Jordan, born in 1925 and ossified since infancy. Though educated, he found no work until a carnival arrived in 1963. After showing he could roll and light cigarettes with his mouth, Otis was hired on the spot. He remained a beloved performer for decades, even now. Number 2. Qingling Fu and Chungling Su. The world of stage magic became a battleground when Qing, born Chi-Ling Kwa, was pitted against his most notorious imitator, Chungling Su. Qing amazed audiences at the 1898 Omaha Trans-Mississippi exhibition with impossible illusions, pulling ducks or bowls of water from nowhere, breathing smoke that unraveled into silk ribbons, or repairing torn paper in seconds. His flair ignited a wave of imitators, but none dared copy him more than William Ellsworth Robinson, an American who fully adopted a fake Chinese identity. As Chungling Su, Robinson refused to speak English in public, relying on interpreters, and flawlessly recreated Qing's signature acts. Despite public challenges from Qing, Su's popularity surged. The deception unraveled in 1918 during a bullet catch trick in London. A stage malfunction caused the gun to discharge for real, fatally striking Robinson. As he collapsed, he cried out in English. Only then did stunned audiences realize the famed Chinese magician had been American all along. Number 1. Rita and Christina Parodi. Rita and Christina Parodi were born in Sassari to Maria Teresa Parodi, already exhausted by raising 8 children. Joined at the rib cage, they shared one abdomen but had 2 heads and 4 arms. Christina was healthy and robust. Rita was frail from the beginning. The family displayed them across Italy before arriving in Paris, billing them as Rita Christina, l'enfant bicéphale. Public shows were banned due to their age, but the family continued hosting private viewings for doctors and journalists. In grim conditions, Rita contracted acute bronchitis in 1829. She died at just 8 months and 20 days, and moments later, Christina let out a final cry and followed. An immediate autopsy revealed mirrored organs, a single shared liver, and Rita's severely malformed heart. Their skeleton was preserved in Paris, and their brief, tragic story endured in both scientific literature and even in Balzac's writing. Their existence became both a medical marvel and a haunting symbol of life's fragility. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thanks for hanging with us, and we'll see you soon in the next one.